Good morning. I am so sorry to do this, but Miss Smith has not been feeling well all weekend, and I've had to cancel our classes today. So you're going to watch this math recording and complete the math Nearpod. Follow along throughout the lesson, and then complete the Nearpod, and then do the same for the ELA. Do not forget, you have OLS lessons you need to complete for today as well. Okie dokie, artichokes, let's get this party started. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. No, this is not an April's Fool's joke. You do have to do this. I am Miss Smith. My email is tsmith@lsoa.org, and my number is 682-777-9474. I will be checking my email throughout the day, so if you do need to get in touch with me, just make sure that you do that. All right, let's get started. Today, we are recalling our knowledge of place value strategies involving pictorial strategies involving pictorial models, number lines, and equations, so that we can solve 1 and 2-step problems involving addition and subtraction. We know we've got it if we can solve 1 and 2-step addition and subtraction problems using a variety of different math strategies. This is your warm-up problem. Follow along as I read it. Then once I'm done reading it, you're going to hit pause. I'll pause as well. And then you'll solve it. And then we will come back together once you have solved it, and we'll go through it as a class. There were 35 pretzels at a bakery. A baker made 20 more pretzels. The baker then sold 11 pretzels. Which equation shows how to find the number of pretzels? There are now. It would be helpful if I read the entire thing, right? So a great thing to remember, an equation is a mathematical sentence that has two equal sides separated by an equal sign. It tells how to solve a problem step by step. All right, so remember, hit pause, reread this problem, think about what it's asking you to do, and then we'll come back in a few moments and go through this problem together and share our answers. All right, you should have worked through this problem, and now we're going to kind of go through it together, talking it out. So let's talk about what is this problem asking us to do. Let's look for some of the important facts. So we know that there were 35 pretzels to begin with. The baker made 20 more pretzels, and then the baker sold 11 pretzels. What the question is asking us to do is to find which equation shows how to find the number of pretzels there are now. Now, please forgive my really bad line drawing. Is this question asking us to solve the equation? While that would be lovely if it was, it technically isn't asking us to solve it. It is just asking us to find the equation that would ultimately help us solve it. So we're not necessarily solving the equation, we're just finding the equation that would utilize this step-by-step process to solve it. So which one of these equations would help us find? Which one of these equations would help us solve it? So which one did you use? Which one did you select? A, B, C, or D? We know that the baker started with 35 pretzels. So if the baker started with 35 pretzels, and we know that a good test taker, it doesn't matter if it's a STAAR test, our TFAR, our interms, our math, our OLS test, we know that a good test taker uses the process of elimination. We can use the same strategy. So let's look at that total that the baker started with, 35. Let's look at each of those answer choices. A starts with 35, B 35, C 35, and D 35. Well, since they all start with 35, we can't eliminate anything. So let's look at our next answer choice. And the baker then made 20 more. If the baker is making 20 more, is the baker adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? You're correct. The baker is adding 20 more to that original total of 35, putting 20 more into it. So since the baker is adding 20 more into that group, we can go through and eliminate. Now we can go through and eliminate any answer choices that are not adding 20 more. Please forgive me. So A, adding 20, right here. B, subtracting 20. We can eliminate B. And C, subtracting 20, eliminate. D, adding 20. So we can keep A and D in there. Let's keep going. The baker then sold 11 pretzels. Because the baker sold, are we adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Like that. Correct. Because he sold, we're taking that 11 out of the whole group of 20 of pretzels that are in the pretzel basket. So let's go through and see which answer choice is showing 11 being taken out or subtracted out. A, we only have two. We have A and D. A is showing adding 11, so get rid of A. Really only gives us one. Let's make sure it is correct. D is showing subtracting 11. So D is our correct answer choice. Great job. So if you have D as your correct answer choice, give yourself some snaps and some claps for that. Now, once again, this question is not asking us to solve the entire equation. It'd be lovely if you did. I would love to know how many pretzels there were at the end of the day. But that was not the purpose of this question. It was just to see which equation would help us find that answer. So let's stop and think about, how can we determine if a math problem is asking you to add or subtract? We need to really make sure we know our math vocabulary words. So when we are adding, the math vocabulary words for addition are addend and sum or total. So when we put two numbers together, those two numbers, when we're putting them together, when we are adding them together, those two numbers are no longer called numbers, they're called addends. When we're putting them together, when we're adding them together, those two numbers are called addends. When we're adding them together, they're called addends. And the answer that we get is called a sum or a total. When we are subtracting, the number we begin with, that total number we begin with, is called a minuend. And the amount we take out from that minuend is called a subtrahend. Yeah, it's a big fancy, those are big fancy words. But it's good to know. So the whole amount that we have is a minuend. And the amount that we take out is the subtrahend. And the answer we get is the difference. So the amount between the original amount, the minuend, and the amount we take out, the subtrahend, is the difference. So let's put that in real terms. Let's think back to that pretzel problem. So the baker had 35 pretzels, and he added 20 more. Actually, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. So the baker had 35 pretzels, put it right here, 35 pretzels, and he added 20 more. Oops. How did that happen? You might have read back. He added 20 more. It's smaller. There we go. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. Like I said, my brain, I am not feeling well today. So our two add-ins are 35 and 20. Our sum or total is 55. So that was our original, our first amount that the baker started with at the beginning of the day is 35. And then that was our first add-in. Then he added 20 more. That our second add-in was 20. So 35 plus 20 equals a sum or total of 55. Now let's talk in real life subtraction terms. Our minuend, our total amount, is 55 minus 11. So our minuend is 55. Our subtrahend is 11. The amount that we're taking out is 11. So our minuend, our total amount of pretzels, is 55. Our subtrahend, the amount of pretzels we're going to take out, is 11. Now we want to see how many pretzels there are left after we take those 11 out. I'm going to put it right here so we can see it in a tower, because like we have talked about before, Miss Smith has to see it vertically. 55 minus 11. 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. So the difference between our minuend and our subtrahend is 44. So the amount left over after our subtrahend is taken out, after those 11 pretzels are sold, are 44 pretzels. So sorry. So when we are talking about solving math word problems, there is a math flow chart. We talked about this before. And some of y'all are like, I don't like using the math flow chart. I don't like using cubes. I just like doing my math. And that's totally fine. If you like using just looking at it and it clicks, then that works for you. Others, it helps to have that visual cue or that mental reminder. This is just a mental reminder. And it's in your math toolbox, just like the cube method is a tool in your toolbox. This is just another tool in your toolbox. So let's think back to that the pretzel word problem. The baker started with 35 pretzels. The baker then added 20 more pretzels, and then the baker took away 11 pretzels. So I'm going to put that right here. So we started with 35 pretzels, then added 20, and then took away 11. So when we have a word problem, the first thing we do is we ask ourselves, are there groups involved? Well, yes, there are. Are there groups involved? Technically, yes. So if we go up to yes, well, there are groups involved. But when we are thinking about groups, because it says use multiplication and division, we need to look at those groups. 35, 20, and 11. What do we see with those groups? Do we notice anything about those groups when we're thinking about multiplication and division? What is the one thing that multiplication you have to have for multiplication and division to work? You're right, it has to be equal. 35, 20, and 11 are not equal groupings. So even though, yes, technically there are groups of pretzels, they're not equal groupings. So we can say, yeah, that first batch of pretzels that the baker started the day with, and there was another batch of pretzels, a batch of 20, and there was another batch of pretzels, a batch of 11. Those aren't equal groupings. So we cannot say, yes, there were groups. So we go to no. So now that we've gone to no, it says use subtraction or addition. Now, in this case, we already know we're going to use the combination of both. And so the next part of this is, do you know the total? Well, we know both parts. Yes, we do know the total, and no, we don't know the total. Why is it a difficult thing? Well, we know the total amount that was started with, but we don't know the total that was added. We know that original amount that was started with. So we don't know the total. We don't know the total that was after that first group of 20 that was added. So we can say, no, we don't know after that first group of 20 were added. So we can say no, we don't know that much. But after we do add that 20, we could say, yes, we know that, but we don't know what what the answer would be after that. So that's why it would be a multi-part question. So when you are thinking about this flow chart, especially with multi-part questions, you have to think it out. So that's why when we've talked about this before, some of you are like, I don't like this because it's just easier to use my brain and just not visualize it. Others, I like how I can visualize this. So remember, this is a tool in your toolbox. Use it like that, as a tool. If it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, use another tool. So normally during this part, you would just kind of follow along as I teach through it. Today, you're going to be following along in Nearpod as we work through it. So Erica's goal is to practice playing her guitar for 300 minutes this week. On Sunday, she practiced for 117 minutes. On Tuesday, she practiced for 58 minutes. How many more minutes does Erica need to practice in order to meet her goal? So, step 1, identify the important numbers. What information have I been given, and what do I need to know? So, what are those important numbers? We know that her goal is to practice for 300 minutes. She's already practiced 117 minutes. Tuesday, she practiced for 58 minutes. So those are the important numbers that we need to know. What information have you been given? So those are those important numbers. So let's look at step 2. Identify the question from the problem. What have I been asked to figure out? How many more minutes does Erica need to practice in order to meet her goal? How many more minutes need to practice? There we go. How many more minutes does Erica need to practice? That's really the most important part. So, how are we going to find that? Let's look to step 3. Identify the action clue words. Look out for any extra information. I can use information to determine the operation needed to solve the problem. So let's look at step 3. So how many more minutes? I'm going to change my pen. So Erica's goal is to practice playing her guitar for 300 minutes this week. On Sunday, she practiced 117 minutes. On Tuesday, she practiced for 58 minutes. How many more minutes does Erica need to practice in order to meet her goal? I know more is more minutes. Actually, I'm going to do more minutes. Is a clue word that would tell me it's like a comparison. I'm probably going to need to subtract, so I'm going to put a little subtraction right up here because that's a clue that I need. It's a comparison. But what am I going to compare? How many more minutes does Erica need to practice in order to meet her goal? Oh, I'm going to compare because that is her goal is up here of 300 minutes. So whatever right here, I'm comparing it to that goal of 300. So what is she doing to meet her goal? Right here, she's practicing. Underline practice. She's practicing here and practicing here. All right. So let's go on to step 4. Develop a plan of action. How can I solve the problem? So what do I need to do to solve this problem? Any? Yeah, like any question? Anyone want to solve this? So we know that she practiced on Sunday for 117 minutes. We know that she practiced on Tuesday for 58 minutes. I'm going to combine both Sunday and Tuesday. If I'm combining those two, I'm going to add those two. So I'm going to put a little plus sign right there. And then whatever I add together, I'm going to compare that to that 300. So I'm going to add and then subtract. So let's get this party started. So 117, 17 plus 58. Seven, so we're going to start with our ones column. 7 plus 8. All right, so we're going to start with our ones column. So 7 plus 8. 7 plus 8 is 15. So we're going to put the 5 in the ones column. Carry our 1 over to our tens column. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 5 equals 7. And then we go over to our hundreds column. And then 1 plus 0. Remember, when there's nothing there, it's just basically a 0 sitting there. An invisible 0. We bring that 1 down. So we have 175. I'm going to put that 175 right there. So Erica has practiced a total of 175 minutes. So if I look right here, I see a 175 in my answer choice. Am I done? How many more minutes does Erica need to practice to meet her goal? Erica's goal is to practice playing her guitar for 300 minutes this week. On Sunday, she practiced for 117 minutes. On Tuesday, she practiced for 58 minutes. How many more minutes does she need to practice to meet her goal? There is that 175. How many more minutes? You're right, I need to keep going. How many more? Remember that you're right. We need to keep going. That many more. We're comparing that 300 to the 175 that she's already practiced on Sunday and on Tuesday. Remember, those test raters, and once again, it's not just the test raters on the STAAR test, it's the test raters in the OLS, on TFAR, interims, map testing. They're tricky McTrickersons. They're going to do everything they can to trick you. We want to be really, really smart and use every test-taking strategy we have. They're going to put things right there to trick you and to be like, wait, I just got that answer. Can I stop there? No, this is a 2-part question. So now that we've added that total, we must keep going. So we have that whole that we have to compare the 375 to. And that whole is 175 too. So we have 300 minus 175. All right. Sorry. All right. So let's finish this up. We had that whole goal of 300 minutes that Erica wants to practice. And she's already practiced for 175. we're going to compare them. When we compare, we're subtracting. 300 minus 175. We're going to start once again in our ones column. 100, 0 minus 5. Can I do that? No. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go next door to our tens group. Can I borrow anything from our tens? Unfortunately, we can't again. I'm going to change my pen color. So we go over to the hundreds. Can I borrow from the hundreds? Yes, I can. So I'm going to borrow one group of 100. If I'm borrowing one group of 100, I'm going to take one group of 100 from 300. That leaves me with 200 left. I'm bringing that one group of 100. As I'm bringing that one group of 100 back to my ones column, as I'm bringing it back, I have to drop some off at each house I stopped at. So I stopped at the tens. I need to leave some at that house because they didn't have any there. So I stop at the tens. I'm leaving a group of 100. I'm not leaving a 1. I'm leaving, remember, we're leaving a group of 100 there. If I'm leaving a group of 100, I'm taking some away. If I'm taking a group of 10 away, now I'm not taking a group of 100 away. I'm taking a group of 10 away because now we're in the tens. They're not grouped in 100s anymore. They're grouped in tens. If I'm taking a group of 10 from that whole group of 100, what is one group of 10 from 100? 10 minus 100 is 90. Or instead of writing 100 or 90, we can just write 9. Remember, when we write 9 in the tens column, that's what it represents. It doesn't represent just 9. It represents 90. I'm going to change that color so that we know. That we are a 9. Now I'm bringing that one group of 10 that we just borrowed over to my ones column. Now I don't have a 1, I have one group of 10. Now I could either put a 1 right next to that 0, or I just cross that 0 out and put a 10. 10 minus 5 equals, correctamundo, 5. Now let's go over to our tens column. 9 minus 7, or 90 minus 70. Remember, we're in the tens column. Sorry, I'm like waiting on you guys to stop. 2, very good. And then 2 minus 1, 1. So how many more minutes does Erica need? She needs to practice. She needs 125 more minutes. I'm waiting on you guys to respond. I'm so sorry. Once again, it would be really, really easy for y'all to stop right here. You see that 175, and you're like, I don't want to go any further, especially since there's a lot of regrouping with 300 minus 175. I don't want to do that. I get it. We all know how Miss Smith feels about, we all know how I feel about math. We also know I had my learning disability math. Math is not my my strong suit. Math is not. We know how I feel about math. So, especially third grade, Miss Smith, when I saw that I would have to regroup, it didn't matter if I knew I had to or not, if I could or couldn't. I was like, 175 is my answer. Okay, we're going with that. We're going with that. Keep going. Like my brain is just shutting down as we speak. Keep going. All right. And if you know you have to subtract, another thing we can talk about really quickly, if you know you have to subtract, and you know you have to subtract 300 minus 175, and you're at 175, never mind. Don't listen to what Miss Smith is going to say. Like, that's just going to make it seem a lot more difficult. Now, there is another strategy. So we have the 300. We added 117. We added these two together, the 117 and the 58, and then subtracted from the total. Now, that is one strategy, and that's the two-step method. That's how I would take it. I want to quickly cover another strategy that half the class typically takes, where you take the 300 because you know that's your total and you just subtract down. You can do that. Just make sure that your math is correct. I mean, you have to make sure your math is correct either way. So if you know that's what you need to do, you need to use that whole amount, and you just have to find how many more minutes Erica needs to practice. You can do the 300 minus 117, still subtract across, leaves you with 2, 10, 9, 10 minus 7, that's 3, 9 minus 1, that's 8, 2 minus 1, that's 2. 285 is not one of our answer choices, but still we have to subtract one more. So we have 285 minus 58. To 85 85 minus 58. 5 minus 8, can't do that. Go over. Let me change my pen color. Now there's a lot more regrouping because you have to regroup twice. That would leave us with 7. 15 minus 8. 15 minus 8 equals 7. 7 minus 5 equals 2. Oh, I see. I did a math problem right here. That would be a 1. 2 minus 1 equals 1. I'm like, how did I do that? 2 minus 1 equals 1. 7 minus 5 equals 2. did the math wrong here. And then, okay, hang on. Did the math wrong somewhere. 127. My answer is 125. Did the math wrong somewhere. My closest answer is 125. Go for it. There's two ways you can answer it. All right. Addison started with 85, with 87 in her banking, $87 in her bank account. She put She put $213 in her account last week, and another $213 in her account last week, and another $137 in her account this week. What is the total amount Addison now has in her bank account? Enter the answer in the box. So, what do we need to do to solve this problem? We need to identify how much Addison had started with. She started with $87. She put $213 in her account last week, then another $137 in her account this week. What is this question asking us to do? We need to find that total amount Addison now has in her bank account. And then how are we going to enter our answer? We are going to enter it in the box. Now remember, with this type of answer choice, it does look like a calculator, but it really isn't. We're just going to hit the numbers at the end. So how are we going to do this? Think about it. Are there equal number of groups? There are numbers, but they're not equal and they're not grouped. When we think about money, it is groups of dollars, groups of tens, because there are groups of tens, but they're not equal. Do we know the total amount? Not yet. So we're going to add, because we want to know that total amount. We're going to add them together. So she started with 87. I'm going to put my hundreds in first. So 213, 137, and then 87. Seven plus 7, that is 14, plus 3. Brain hiccup. 17. Brain hiccup. 7 in my ones column. Carry the 1 to the tens. 8 plus 1, that's 9, plus another 1, that is 10, plus 3, that is 13. Carry my 1 over to the hundreds. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2, that is 4. So what is the total amount that Addison has in her bank account? She has $437. So we have to enter that amount in the box. Now, for this answer choice, you're just going to write it. 437. Now, if this was a TFAR, interim, STAAR, or even map test, you would need to click each answer choice, 437, and it would pop up 437. Remember, though, we get excited when we see this because it does look like a calculator, and we're like, yes, it's going to do the work for us. But no, it is not a calculator. It is just another way to answer those questions. Yay, us. Let me clear this up. Timothy wants to buy a camera that costs $75. He saves $23 as shown in the model. Write an equation that could be used to find how much money Timothy needs in order to buy the camera. So that's part A. Part B says, how would our equation change if the camera went on sale for $10 less? So let's write our equation first. So, all right, so we know what the total amount is of the camera. The total amount is $75. That's our total amount. And we know how much Timothy, that's his name, right? That's his name, already has saved. That is $23. Excuse me. We want to find the difference that he needs from that total amount in the amount that he has already saved. So he knows how much he still needs to save to buy that camera. So when we are looking to write that equation so that we can help, so that let's pretend we're Timothy, so that we can work to save that money. How do we do that? How do we create that equation? We have the total amount. Which is $75. That is our minuend, $75. Total amount. Then we think about how much have we saved, because we're Timothy, or we're Timothy's friend. We saved $23. We're comparing how much we have versus how much we want versus how much we've saved, because we want to know how much we still need to save. So when we're comparing these two, how much the camera costs versus how much we need versus how much we have, then when we're comparing, what operation are we doing? Correct, we are subtracting. So we have our minuend and our subtrahend. And when we get that, we are going to get our difference. Or we could, instead of doing that, we can put C for camera. So the second part is, how would our equation change if the camera went on sale for $10 less? Excuse me. All right, so now, holla, our camera is on sale. So we get to save $10, but we still need to create an equation for that. How does that look like? What does that look like? I'm waiting on y'all to answer. I'm sorry. You're like, Miss Smith, your brain is not working. I'm like, I know. So what does that look like if our camera goes on sale for $10 less? We still start with that $75. Are we adding $10 more, or are we subtracting $10? Because we're subtracting. Correct. Because it didn't increase by $10. It decreased by $10. Now, Timothy still only has $23. What are we doing? Does that change the rest of our equation? No, it doesn't. So we can still keep the rest of our equation. So 75 minus 10 minus 23 equals the price of our camera that he still needs to save. Great job, Doodles. So whenever it is a question like this, think about each part that is asking you to solve. Sorry. There are 25 people in the library. Some people left the library and went home. There were 13 people remaining in the library. Which number line represents one way to determine the number of people who left the library? So we stop and we ask ourselves, how many people were in the library to begin with? I said 23, didn't I? There are 25 people in the library. Some people left. We don't know how many, just some. I'm going to underline that. Some people left. And then there were only 13 people remaining in the library. Which number line represents one way to determine which number line represents one way to determine the number of people who left the library? So let's go through each of our answer choices. So let's look at each one of these answer choices. All right. So we know that there are some people left in the library, which I'm sorry. My brain just had a complete meltdown. Which number line represents one way to determine the number of people who are left at the library? So we want to find which one of these works. So let's ask ourselves, it's starting to get worse. If you keep asking yourselves, why do I keep pausing? I'm getting sick. I do apologize. I really do. So let's start by using process of elimination. We know there's a total number of people in the library. So each of our number lines cannot go over that total number, and it must begin at that total number. So our total number is 25. Here is 25 on our number line. So if it doesn't start, if it goes over the 25 or it doesn't even start at the 25, we can go ahead and eliminate it. So let's see. If we look at F does go over the 25. So let's get rid of F. G starts at 25, so we're going to leave G. H doesn't even come close to 25, so get rid of H. And J starts at the 25. So we're going to leave G and H. I'm going to clear these off so we can see everything again. All right, and then once again, we were going to get rid of these two. So we have 25 and 13. So there are 25 people at the library. Some people left. We don't know how many people left yet. And then 13 people were remaining. So we know 25 people were there. Some of them left. So right here, make my pen a little bit smaller. We know that there were 25, 25, and 25. We know that 13 people left. So do both of these answer choices show, G and J, do both of these show that 13 people left? Well, if we look here, let's see. We see 25 to 20, that's 5. 20 to 15, that's 10. And then right about there, yes, that shows 13. So that's a whole section of 13. Do I have another whole section of 13? Yes, that shows me a whole section of 13. So that shows me the 13 people who are remaining right here. But it doesn't really show me that group who left. It only shows right here. This shows me that whole section, that 13 who are remaining. So this is the 13 who are remaining. And this is the 13 who are remaining. So what is the difference between this 13 who are answer choice G and the answer choice J? Because we want to find that difference. We want to see, we want to find out how many people left the library. Can I find out how many people left the library with answer choice J or answer choice G? Will answer choice G give me an accurate representation? Think about it. I'm so sorry. I keep waiting on you guys to answer. No, so answer choice G, it won't give me an accurate representation because it won't. Sorry. My brain is starting to melt down. Answer choice G won't give us an accurate answer because based on the information we have, if we don't have this number line, we can't find this answer. If we're looking at the number line, yes, we can get that answer. But if we don't have this number line, we can't find that there are 5, 10, 11, 12, about 13 more people who left. So what we have to do is we have to subtract that's where I'm going to mark this out. What answer choice J is showing. We are developing an equation of 25 minus, so we're taking that minuend, 25 minus 13. So we're comparing 25 minus 13 to get the to get the number of people who went home. We'll put H, home. That group of people, not 13, 12. The number of people who went home. So if because we're looking at, so J, yes, is our correct answer choice. If we're looking at J, we could say, yes, J is our correct answer choice too, and that's why I had to pause also. That's another reason why my brain was melting down. I was like, yeah, well, I could see how J could work. And if we knew all of the answer pieces, or all of the number of people who went home, J would work, because we could add 12 plus 13, which would equal 25. But because we don't, because we are missing that answer choice, or that one missing piece, the number of people who went home, that is why J won't work, or G won't work, because we have to subtract. Because we have to subtract, G will not work. And J is our only possible answer choice. I do apologize, guys. I should not have. Should just be like, do your work. From this point on, do your work. So, excuse me. Total number of keys on a computer keyboard is 87. There are 26 keys and 21 special key symbols on the keyboard. The rest of the keys are function keys. Which model represents the way to find the number of function keys? Identify the correct model and create an equation for that. You don't have to do this one because apparently I created 2 of those. I apologize. I'll delete this one before I send it out. Hillary has 156 pennies in her penny bank. She will take out 400 pennies on Saturday and will put 120 pennies into the bank on Sunday. Which set of equations will be used to find the number of pennies Hillary will have in her penny bank after she puts pennies in on Sunday? Identify the correct equation. Bianca wants to buy a tablet computer that costs $195. She has $135 as shown in the model. Which equation can Bianca use to find how much money she needs to buy the computer? There were 185 peanuts in a package. Oscar ate some of the peanuts. If there were 89 peanuts left in the package, how many peanuts did Oscar eat? Answer in the box. So solve and then answer in the box. Remember, this is the one where it looks like you need to solve it first, and then remember, it looks like the calculator, but it's not really. The table shows the number of puzzle pieces in 4 puzzles. Derek put together 2 puzzles that had the greatest number of pieces. What is the total number of pieces in these 2 puzzles? And then, so once you answered that, you're going to take it a little bit further by creating a bar graph to represent this problem. And then lastly, your exit ticket. It does say it's a drag and drop, but drag and drop did not drag or drop, so you're just going to answer in the box. An ice cream shop sold 3 flavors last Friday. 483 cones were chocolate, 55 cones were vanilla, 124 cones were strawberry. Move the correct answers to each box. Not all answers will be used. Technically, all answers will be used because it didn't drag or drop. How many cones were sold that were chocolate or strawberry? How many cones were sold that were chocolate or strawberry? So how many cones were sold? How many chocolate and strawberry cones were sold? Sell that. How many more vanilla cones were sold than chocolate and strawberry cones combined? So how many vanilla cones were sold? How many more vanilla cones were sold than chocolate and strawberry cones combined? All right, now it's your extra ticket. I will do this. I'm going to go ahead and send this out, and then I'm doing the ELA recording next. And then send that out. Do those. Love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.